Fair use disclaimer. The copyright laws of the United States recognizes a fair use of copyright content. Section 107 of the United States Copyright Act states, notwithstanding the provisions of sections 106 and 106A, the fair use of a copyrighted work, including such use by reproduction in copies or phone records or by any other means specified by that section for purposes such as criticism, comments, news, reporting, teaching, including multiple copies for classroom use, scholarships, or research, is not an infringement of copyright. This video and YouTube channel in general may contain copyrighted works that were not specifically authorized to be used by the copyright holders, but which we believe in good faith are protected by federal law and the fair use doctrine for one or more of the reasons noted above. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. This story is out of Bronx, New York, a horrible tragedy where a toddler, 1-year-old Nicholas Felice, lost his life and 3 other babies between the ages of 8 months and 2 years old, all exposed to fentanyl at a Bronx daycare. One of the 3 babies still fighting for his life in a hospital. After nap time, daycare owner Gary Menendez tried to wake the children, and some of them wasn't waking up. Instead of calling 911, she called her husband 3 times to come and take the fentanyl out of the daycare. Police say they found a kilo of fentanyl somewhere the baby slept and played. Menendez and her cousin Carlisto Brito both was charged in the demise of the toddler and endangering the lives of the other 3 babies. According to New York Post, the owner of a New York City daycare center where 1-year-old passed away after being exposed to fentanyl, allegedly stored on the top of a playmat, took steps to cover up her involvement in the distribution operation. Menendez, the 36-year-old owner of the daycare, and Carlisto Brito, a 41-year-old man who rented a room from her, were hit with federal narcotics conspiracy charges on Tuesday. The charges came just days after the pair was charged with the Big M for the toddler, Nicholas Demenci Felice. Both Menendez and Brito have denied knowledge of anything being in the daycare.
A 1-year-old and 3 other children sickened after suspected fentanyl poisoning at a daycare facility. One of the victims, a 2-year-old, is now fighting for his life. 2 people have been arrested on murder and assault charges. Details now from ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Gray, were there opioids in your daycare center?
Tonight, a New York City daycare owner charged with after police say a 1-year-old boy apparently exposed to her watch.
What do you want to say to the families?
Gray Mendez, who runs the Divino Nino daycare from her Bronx apartment, charged along with her tenant and cousin, Carlisto Acevedo Brito. The 2 expected to be arraigned late today, and the 1-year-old Nicholas Felice Domenici, whose distraught father says his son just started daycare last week.
I love him. I miss him. I want him back.
On Friday around noon, police say a 2-year-old boy in Mendez's care went home, where he started acting lethargic and unresponsive. His mother took him to the hospital, where he was revived with the overdose reversal medication Narcan. 2 hours later, police rushed to the daycare after a 911 call.
Narcan was administered to all 3 of these children in an attempt to save their lives.
According to police, the licensed daycare only opened in January and on September 6th passed a surprise third visit from city inspectors with no violations found. Law enforcement sources say investigators made a stunning discovery when they searched the home Friday. A kilo blanc of vet test said and 3 kilo presses.
This is an item that is commonly used by drug dealers when packaging large quantities.
In 2022, the DEA says it seized enough nationwide to kill every American, and New York says it seized close to 2 million fentanyl-laced pills statewide.
This crisis is real, and it is a real wake-up call for individuals who have opioids or in their homes.
And Lindsay, 2 children are still in the hospital tonight, one fighting for their life. Doctors are running tests to determine what opioids they were exposed to. And we're learning more about the suspects. They could face a federal drug case, and that's expected soon.
I want to get to a story that we have been following very closely here. The latest on the investigation into the death of a 1-year-old boy at a Bronx daycare. The NYPD saying the owners of the daycare center were hiding bags of beneath a trap door in the children's play area. There is so much to this story here, with new information basically coming out on a daily basis.
What a story this is, and I can't overstate just how upset people are about it, especially parents who have to rely on these daycare centers throughout the city so that they can go to work and they can support their families. And just to give people an idea of the physical layout of it, this was a daycare center. When we think of that, we think of, shiny linoleum or tile floors, kids objects on the walls, paintings, pictures, that type of thing. This was a daycare center inside an apartment building, which is not that unusual in New York City because of the shortage of space. It also makes it very convenient for parents in the neighborhood to drop their kid off on their way to work. So this is where all of this transpired, and I mentioned that to give people an idea of just how close the kids were to what was going on there. So a lot of developments this week.
Handcuffs by the NYPD, and her tenant, 41-year-old Carlisto Acevedo Brito, was also arrested on other charges in connection with the fatal overdose of 1-year-old Nicholas Dominici and the poisoning of 3 other children at a Bronx daycare center on Friday. Now it's a federal case, with both Mendez and Brito facing maximum penalty charges. Prosecutors say Mendez allegedly called a third alleged co-conspirator, believed to be her husband, before calling 911 on Friday for the poisoned children. He ran out of the daycare with 2 shopping bags filled with kilos, says Southern District U.S. Attorney Damian Williams.
We allege that the defendants poisoned 4 babies, one of them, because they were running an operation from a daycare center.
Armed with a search warrant, NYPD detectives and DEA agents made a startling discovery.
There we discovered a kilogram in an area that was used to give the children naps. It was laid underneath a mat where the children had been sleeping earlier.
DEA agents were among the first responders to the Divino Niño Daycare Center, which was actually inside Mendez's apartment. Authorities say they also found 3 kilo presses in the place.
Fentanyl has crept into our illicit drug supply like a cancer, slowly and deceptively, and is now in everything and everywhere. Victims instantly and indiscriminately.
Fentanyl is extremely dangerous, and when inhaled or touched and put into the mouth, can cause someone to stop breathing. It's even more of a threat to small children.
It's a sedative, which makes you, sleepier, and, at higher doses can lose unconsciousness. But it also can affect your respiratory system.
Now, what was so disturbing, another disturbing factor in this story that emerged, was that the fentanyl was so close to where the children were that there was stored underneath the nap mats, the little mats that they put on the floor when the kids take their little breaks. And that the doctor said that children that age, and we're talking about kids, babies, 8 months old to 2 years old, they're always putting their hands in their mouth. So if they touched it, literally even for a couple of seconds, and put that in their mouth, they could have been putting themselves at risk, which is in fact what we saw happen. So now one of the other disturbing factors that the federal prosecutors brought out in their case and in their indictment, they said that the daycare owner, before she called 911, Josh, this is as kids are basically passing out in front of her. Before she called 911, she called her husband 3 times to warn him to come and get the other bricks, the kilos of fentanyl that were in the apartment this whole time before the cops could get there and before EMS could get there. So 911 getting help for those babies and those children was not her first priority. And the prosecutors say that he left with 2 shopping bags full of bricks. He is currently on the run, Josh.
Do we know how those other children are doing? Because we know that a 1-year-old boy did pass away and some other children, I guess, did have to be hospitalized. So do we have any sort of update on their conditions?
We don't have any update in the last 72 hours, but we were told that they're doing fine. They were given Narcan. They were administered the Narcan. And then just to give you the timeline, too, this all unfolded a week ago from this past Friday, about 2:45 in the afternoon. And then the authorities are also telling us that around 12:15, there was a mother of a 2-year-old boy, another child, who she went to pick up her son early around 12:15, and then when she got him home, she noticed that he was very lethargic. Now, you know, for a 2-year-old to be like, you know, not dynamic, not energetic, not moving around, she was very concerned. She called 911. It turned out that he had to be given Narcan. He was resuscitated and that basically the mother saved his life by taking that fast action. But people extremely disturbed about this because, you know, on paper, on the books, this was a licensed daycare facility, and some changes now. People are saying, well, you know what? They're going to have to go when they inspect these places. Are they going to have to now go looking for these traps? Like you mentioned the trap. It's called a trap. It's a stash area that is built in cars. It's built in apartments and houses where organizations and drug operatives can put the drugs and oftentimes the cash. A lot of times in those stashes they find. But people are saying, is it time to change that? Dr. Joshua Rocker is that you saw in the package just now. He is the head of pediatric emergency medicine at Cohen Children's Medical Center, a very well-known expert in this area. He said that really parents should think about the same way you would have a fire extinguisher, you'd have cold medicine, some mild pain medicine or whatever, first aid kit in your home. You should also think about having Narcan in your home because there is so much out there in the United States right now, more coming across every day across our borders, that it's really possible that somebody might be exposed. He said especially teens, it's a lot more common with teens, but he said even with babies now, because of the way the dust gets, it takes such a small quantity. If it's put in your mouth, if it's inhaled, enough of it's inhaled, it's very, very easy to overdose. Josh?
And is that a big problem? Because I know that when you talk about the U.S., there are these epidemics. A lot of people have been talking about that for years at this point. But New York City specifically, the Bronx, that general area, is that a growing problem there when it comes to...
Well, Josh, that area in the Bronx, in the South Bronx there, the current head of the DEA operations in Washington, D.C., Ray Donovan, told me on Fox 5 a number of months ago, he said that it was El Chapo who back in 2015 first brought fentanyl to the United States in the South Bronx. And people saw it in pieces here and there, but it's also much more commonly a problem as well in the suburbs with pills, with people using it mixed with coke, mixed with whatever other types of drugs, designer drugs they're taking. And the death toll of it is so severe in New York. Just in New York City alone, 4 deaths every hour.
Man, this is just horrible. My heart aches for these parents. I couldn't imagine such a thing happening when my children were younger and in daycare or with my grands. I have a hard time understanding how an apartment looking like that passed inspection. These state agencies need to do better when going out to these apartments. The toddler who lost his young life, Nicholas Felice, dad spoke out and said the other children don't even want to go to school because they are afraid, thinking and feeling that they are not safe at school now with what happened to their baby brother. Take a listen.
We all have heartbreak. It's really hard for us. They don't want to go to school today because we don't want people to die in the school. It's really hard. It's not just those people. It's a lot of things happening. All my first kids doesn't want to go to school because they don't want happen the same to people that are in school. It's really hard. It's dangerous for everyone. Some people like to use it. I don't know why, but some people use it. But this is dangerous. you see the result. But can be yours. I don't want the other kids. It's an emergency now. I want all my first day alive, but it's pretty hard. Son cosas que no se suponen que pasen. Es un lugar que lo buscamos a través de una home base, que se supone que ellos se aseguran de que es un buen lugar para los niños. Nosotros llenamos muchos papeles, we fill up a lot of papers, para asegurarnos de que todo esté correcto con nosotros como familia, que seamos una familia íntegra, de que el niño esté en salud y que todo esté en orden con el niño para poder ingresar. Y esto sucede.
Because when the vetting process occurred, meaning the family went to a community center and was told this is a good facility to use, I wonder how you can vet the facility, advise somebody else, and have the city also vet the facility, and not realize there's other rentals around that would subject children to dangers. A daycare facility should not have rental units attached with access, because that immediately causes danger. You could have pedophiles, you could have any other random dangers, including what happened here.
Just unbelievable. I don't blame the family for wanting to homeschool their kids now. This is just awful. Her husband is still on the run. I hope they find this monster and get him off the streets. I will come back with updates as this developing story continues and more information comes out. With that said, let's have the discussion. Drop down in the comments. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. And smash that notification bell so you'll see when I drop my next video. Stay blessed. Peace.